What's going on, everybody? This is Dan French. This is another French Workbench podcast. We have a great cast here today in studio, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys don't know, this is a financing and real estate show, and we talk a lot about what's happening in the financing world, also what's in the real estate world, and today we're going to talk about how this is a different market, this pandemic, how it's generated a different market than this previous market crash we had in 2003 and 4. Again, I'm your host, Dan French. I'm going to go ahead and introduce everyone here in studio today. And I want to go ahead and start with Joey Andron. Joey, what's up, buddy? How are you today?
What's up, Dave? How you doing?
Dave?
That's Dave.
I said Joey.
Dan.
Yeah, I'm Dan. What's going on, buddy? How
Not
are you?
much. Good. I'm doing well.
Man. That's good, man. So what's going on? How's your day? You went to the Raiders.
I did.
How'd that go, man?
It was awesome, man. We got a full tour of the stadium.
Yeah.
And got to tour the locker rooms, the Raiderettes locker rooms, on the field, the whole deal.
You went for like a route, right? You went out and you went on the field and you went for a route. That's
Post,
pretty cool.
Catching passes.
Yeah, man. That's cool. And we also have somebody else here in studio. She's from WFG Title, Esmeralda Lacia. She's back, the one and only. What's going on today, Esmeralda?
Hola. How's everybody?
Good, good. What's happening with you today? What'd you do today?
Hey, I was busy visiting offices.
You were busy. Oh, you're shaking down people, huh?
Yeah.
For business?
Yeah, I'm showing up.
You're a sales rep, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I am.
Gotcha. So you've been out and about?
Out and about all day.
We got also David Ramirez from Simply Vegas. And David, what's going on today, buddy? How are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Good, man. So you've been grinding. I know you've been getting a lot of people in, a lot of talk about getting contracts in. You got a lot of movement recently. You're starting to get up, Joey and you guys are kind of rivaling each other right now, man.
It's a crazy market. We're just trying to navigate this crazy market that we're in.
So we got a really good show today. We're going to talk a lot about what's going on in this housing market and how it's different from the pandemic that we had, not the pandemic, but the market crash we had compared to previously in 2002, 3, 4, and 5. I would say it's like the mid 2000s, and why that's so different and what you see today. Also the challenges that's going on with the appraisals and also writing a clean contract. I know that's important. We've talked about this stuff before about writing a clean contract, making sure that everybody understands what they're up against. You look at a lot of these offers that are going in. A lot of these offers, man, it's multiple property scenarios. You have a lot of things going on with that. Also, some of the challenges that you face dealing with on the other side if you're a listing or a buyer agent. So, let's talk first about what's going on with the previous housing market. So, Joey, were you around here and doing real estate in 2003, 4, and 5?
I was, but I was in South Florida at the time. So basically, South Florida, Miami got hit just as hard as Las Vegas market did.
Right.
But I think the difference is the loans, right?
Yeah.
The type of loans that you could get and what they were offering at that time compared to what they're offering now, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the loans were actually a big part of that. They were writing bad loans. Banks were suffering, and I think it contributed to the meltdown, right? We had systematically, it wasn't a good place for banks, and we didn't have all the right tools in place giving out loans. And that was like the primary reason. Banks were suffering. Mm-hmm. A lot of them went under. But, you look at what happened and what contributed to it compared to this market, it's a lot different. Now, in 2003, 4, and 5, what do you see as far as the biggest difference between today's market, Joey?
Well, I think it's a little tougher to get a loan, right? So before they were giving, basically anybody who wanted a mortgage, they were approving, right? Stated documentation. Basically, you walk in and say, hey, look, I'm looking to buy a $300,000 house, $400,000, what have you. And they say, well, how much money do you make?
Yeah.
Just write it down.
It's just a stated income. Boom, you got a loan.
And that's it. So I think every waiter, bartender, stripper, we're buying 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, right? And then all of a sudden,
hey, they probably could afford it too. I mean, they were probably making some good coin, man.
At the time, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden, the interest only stopped, and then the principal kicked in, and boom, it was just kind of like a domino effect.
David, what about you, man? You looked at this market and you see what's going on, and you were buying investment property. Somebody coached you on buying it, and I mean, you were smart enough to take advantage of it, but.
Well, David was a stripper at one time.
David, tell us your story, man. How did you become a stripper and then you started doing real estate?
I knew him in those days.
In my past life?
Yeah, right. So what contributed to that, man? I mean, you looked at 2002. I mean, you got to look at in the 1990s, the housing market was actually doing better than it is today. You know, if you look at 2020 and you compare that market. And so heading into that, we were seeing, you know, really big numbers in the mid 2000s. So when you look at 2000s, what do you remember about that time? And what do you think that one of the factors is why we were such in turmoil, you know, in the aftermath? Because I think, you know, 2014 is really when things started to recover. So what do you think?
Yeah, I started in 2005, so that was the peak of the market, right, when everything was going up. 2005, 2006, we were just flipping houses, turning them over. We had a $100,000 gain equity in 30 days on one property.
In one day?
At that time, yeah, in 2005.
Joey, I just want to bring this up, man. You got a new home. You're buying a new one. You already got 50,000 equity in the property.
51,000 since
Oh my God!
late
What area?
February.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. 51,000. And he's not even been in the house yet.
Yeah, I haven't even closed. Yeah.
So when you look at what's going on, David, you look at your situation when you were looking at these homes to buy. Your thoughts on what you think, what pushed you to buy these homes in that market, because it was a very tough market. Do you feel like it was a demand thing and that you were going to miss out if you didn't buy these homes?
At that point, nobody really knew if it was going to crash. Everybody just thought it was going to keep going up, up, up. And when 2006, 2007 rolled around, that's when things started to go down. That's when people started to realize, okay, things are coming back, values are going down, and that's when everything started to crash.
Yeah. What about you? Let's talk to Esmeralda. Esmeralda Lucia is here from WFG Title. And Esmeralda, you had a lot of time in this business. I mean, you've been doing this business for quite a long time. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
20 years.
20 years. And so when you look at where we're at today and you look at the market, what stands out to you in that market in the mid 2000s? Because I think a lot of people are trying to reference what 2000 was about and then compare it to this market and what is the real difference and what's the real changes in it. So what is your thoughts on it?
You know, it feels familiar, even though it's different, right? Because I would agree with you, right? That
is there a different vibe? Like, you know how you go out and you're a sales rep and you're shaking people's hands? Were people more like, hey, I'm a used car salesman and I'm just out making money, right? I'm just whatever, just throw it in the mix, you know? Is that kind of how it felt? Like it was more just free for all versus today?
I would say yes, because I think this time around, I think that, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? So there's different feelings and emotions involved, I think, with real estate. Either you're moving to a different place, right? You're moving from a state, maybe from California to Vegas. But yeah, I think it's definitely a different mentality, not just with buyers and sellers, but with us amongst each other, with real estate agents and lenders. And I think that, you know, there's different programs, and I think that people are taking it more serious today, I think.
Yeah. You go back, you look at like, you know, the 1990s, late 1990s, early 2000s, we were actually booming. I mean, if you look around, our industry and our economy was booming here in Las Vegas. And, you know, we had a lot of momentum, if you want to call it, because you look at where, you know, we talk about lumber, we talk about the skilled labor, right?
Yes.
People out there building these homes. Right now, I feel like when we started this whole thing back up where we'll say 2015, 16, the demand is one of the contributing factors of why demand is so high and we can't produce these homes is one, builders don't have all the materials, but also the skilled labor. You know, if you look at the skilled labor and the people that were building these homes, they were building it at a more rapid pace. Exactly. And so, you know, when you look at 1999, 2000, we were actually up at 1999, we were up in housing 20%. Especially for new home sales. So when you look at this information, it's pretty astonishing. So Joey, you know, when you go back to 2000 and let's say go 2005, where were you at in 2005, man? Did you just get started? Because we got a little bit on David. What happened? How did you get into this?
I started about the same time as David. It was 2005. So the market was booming. I was managing a pre-construction project in downtown Miami, and that was basically the start of the whole boom. Everywhere in Miami, right? Yeah. And I saw that project through. It was absolutely amazing. The whole downtown market in Miami just exploded. And then I moved down to Miami Beach and worked on the Viceroy on South Beach.
Yeah.
But the influx of investors that we had, every buyer was an investor. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's what is different from today's market, right? So back then, there were so many people that were just throwing money into real estate because money was cheap, right? Even though today money's a little cheap as well.
Yeah.
But there wasn't as many restrictions, I think.
Yeah, that's a good
people,
point.
So people were just buying up properties as much as they possibly could, right? And it was a great market for a while, right? And then all of a sudden, we had the collapse,
big time
out of the blue, right?
Yeah, it just out of nowhere, right?
Yeah. So, comparing that market to this market, I think, piggybacking off what you're saying is, a lot of people realize, especially during COVID, like, hey, look, you know what, we're in a small house. What if this thing were to happen again? We need to really, rethink our living situation. People are taking advantage of the opportunities of being able to work remotely and just kind of move up around the country.
Exactly.
And we're in a position to where we are being heavily influenced by California, right? So the California buyers are coming through here. Prices are relatively inexpensive compared to California. Taxes. So we have a lot of things going for us. So our market's just on fire right now.
Yeah, I know it is. And, David, you look at our market right now, and where do you compare, like, as far as the demand, right? There was a big demand when it comes to buying homes back in 2003, 4, and 5. We had the lottery, and we had the lottery today. And like I told you, systematically, I think back in mid-2000s, maybe we weren't as stable. And it seems like Joey brought up a good point that this market, it's a little bit more, it's stable. It's a little bit harder to get qualified for a loan. You have to meet more criteria, more restrictions. The builders, like I said, they're hard. They're trying to get these properties built up as fast as the demand, and yet they're only saying, hey, we need to slow this down because we just don't have the support. We don't have all the things that's necessary to build these homes at the capacity these people want.
Exactly.
What is your thoughts on that? Like, what do you think the demand is going to be here? I mean, is it going to be met, or are we going to continue to have this problem? Because, you look at 2003, 4, and 5, it seemed like we didn't have this issue.
Yeah, definitely. We didn't have an inventory issue in 2005 and 6, so that definitely helped out. Builders were just building plenty of properties. We had the inventory to have the people coming in. I think there was a census report that just came out. We just hit over 700,000 that came into Vegas this past 12 months, and the majority from California. Yeah. So a huge influx of people coming in from California. That's high demand. And it's hard to say what's going to happen with the inventory. I think June 30th, when the moratorium is over, we'll have a better gauge of what's going to happen if they're going to start releasing more inventory.
Esmeralda, one of the things I want to talk to you about is you meet a lot of realtors. What are some of the challenges you're hearing out there with realtors? Because I know a lot of realtors, man, they're not getting their offers accepted. They're having some issues, and some of them are depressed. Some of them are like, should I get out of this business? Like, what am I doing here, right? And so, what are your thoughts? I mean, you're talking to a lot of people. What are some of the challenges that you're hearing with, compared to, because you were in this market, like I said, mid-2000s.
Yes.
How is it different with these real estate agents? I mean, obviously it's a different crop of realtors out there, but there's got to be a sense of difference as far as how they're looking at this and the sense of urgency of trying to get these buyers into contract.
Well, I would say it's really is how do you compete with cash buyers?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the problem is when it comes to if your buyer doesn't have the cash to pay the difference.
Yeah.
Or pay for it cash or, pay above appraised value. And I think that's where is a challenge. And when you have 50 to 60 offers per home, it's stressful. It's stressful for them. It's stressful for the buyer. The buyer, they lose hope. They're not motivated. This is probably like their 10th offer and they lose it. So that's the calls I get.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. I don't know if that sounds familiar, but
we're in the trenches. Yeah. All right. Those are our buyers.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, personal relationships help, making some phone calls when agents or other people that, hey, can you at least look at the offer? I think those things help.
Yeah.
Is that the key thing to make it happen every time? Probably not. But this is what I hear. And most of them are like, hey, I need listings. And that's really what's happening with agents, with the conversations I have. They don't want to be really a buyer's agent. It's too hard for them right now.
Yeah.
If they don't have cash buyers.
Well, we talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you face. And Joey, you guys are out there. You're writing these contracts. You're out there. You're knowing what the client's dealing with. And you wrote contracts in 2003, 2004, 5, right? You as well, David. And how is it different? Like, is it different? Because it seems like the same thing's happening all over again. You're writing offers and people are willing to go above price, but it just seems different because it's not the same. It's the clients, everybody's not getting approved. There's a lot of qualified buyers. Was there this many out-of-state buyers back in the mid-2000s?
Well, this wasn't my market back then, so I really can't speak to that. But in South Florida, where I was, in Miami, I mean, it was more new construction that I dealt with.
Dude.
But I'll tell you, I mean, we raised prices. There was, I wouldn't say there was a shortage of demand, but it was all high-rise condos, luxury condos, and nobody balked at the price.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there was a line out the door for new construction. So, you know, here now, fast forward to Las Vegas in this market, there's a shortage of inventory. I think what do we have on the market? Like 2,200 homes on the resale market?
2,300 homes, yeah.
And once you start putting in a criteria and you really start narrowing it down, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 500,000 in certain areas, I mean, you're literally down to like 6 or 7 properties to choose from.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. So, you know, back then we had inventory. Now we don't have inventory, but we still have a tremendous amount of approved buyers. I think right now in our database, we have about 62 approved buyers.
That's crazy.
62 pre-approved qualified buyers that we are trying to find homes for. Like, no joke. And we can't just walk into a new home builder and say, hey, listen, you know, we love this floor plan. They want this lot, and let's go. Let's go to contract. They are slow playing it. They're only releasing, new home builders are only releasing like 2 to 3 home sites, maybe 4 home sites per month, but they still have an extensive interest list to where you have to get pre-approved, you have to get on that list, and then they go down the line as they do the release and you know, figure out who's fallen off and who's still interested. So it's not that easy. I mean, there's still a process to go through, even though we have all these buyers and it sounds amazing, but we don't have a place to put them, which is really, really challenging.
Well, yeah.
You know, so I don't think, you know, the market's not going to crash like it did back then because it's a completely different market. People say, you know, it sounds familiar or if it looks familiar, and it's a different place, completely different place. There's zero inventory. There's too many buyers. There's people that are willing to pay the price and they're willing to relocate, and they're end users. They're not investors.
Yeah. I just want to ask you a quick question. What's your beer of choice? David, are you a Stella fan as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I figured you would be. Yeah, man. So it's good to like roll in here. You guys have your beers ready and everything's good to go. So let's talk about this situation with the lottery. You got lotteries going on, and you were around when they were doing the lottery back in the mid 2000s. Is there a difference today versus the lottery today versus back then?
As far as the demand, it's pretty similar. The demand is huge. People are out here. They want to buy these properties. And like he said, the builders, what they're doing, they're squeezing out the lots so they can bump up the prices.
Yeah.
So we're seeing these lots, the base price on these properties go up $5,000 to $10,000 per month.
Yeah.
On the base price.
Yeah.
So when they call somebody for the lottery, say, okay, we have a lot open, this, and this, but the base price that you had originally looked at is now $5,000 higher. So that's what we're seeing the builders do, is just increase the prices.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny because, well, it's not really funny, but you know, people that are sitting on this waiting list and they're waiting to get these properties, like you said, they're increasing these prices, base prices, because of materials, lumber, you know, the cost of doing business, but then they're also trying to just squeeze as much as they possibly can out of those lots. A lot of these people are getting priced out of the market.
Yeah. So what do you think is contributing right now to why prices are so high? Is it, we talked about inflation, right? Are they really higher though between 2003 and mid 2000s than today? Is it really that much higher, or is it pretty comparable to where it's at versus today's market? You know, because I remember back in the day, people were willing to go above 20 or 30,000, and we're seeing this again. And one of the things that's alarming is even when the appraisal comes in low, because the demand is so high for these properties, they're coming above price, no problem. You know, I mean, I know we negotiate, and we're going to talk about the appraisal situation here shortly. What are your thoughts, though?
I mean, I don't know if it's the same scenario of why people are overpaying. But I know in this market, since we do have a low inventory, and the cost of lumber has gone up 400%, that's also contributing to the price increases. Yeah. Right. I don't know back then in 2005 here in this market if lumber was at that price that it is today, or if there was a shortage. But
isn't it like at 400% higher right now for lumber?
100%. Now, to keep in mind, lumber's up 400%, and we're also, as a market across the board, 14% across the board on price increases of appreciation across the valley. So you have to take that into consideration as well.
That's crazy. Are you so, Esmeralda? Let's talk to you. Do you deal with a lot of people that are looking at new homes? Do you deal with a lot of people that are working to buy new homes? And you're in the title industry, so kind of explain how that process works. I know we talked about it before, but you go out and you actually meet realtors, you go out and meet people in the industry because you're trying to develop business with them.
Right.
One of them being builders. And we're talking about builders because I feel that there's existing homes out there. There's challenges. We're going to talk about how you can get into the market or get into a house in an existing home. But you're dealing with challenges as well. But you have to develop relationships with builders too, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I do.
And what is it that you do that when you go out and you meet these relationships, how do you develop a relationship with a builder? Like, how does that work?
Well, it's tough with builders because some of them, they actually have their own title company.
Yeah.
So, building a relationship doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get immediate business.
Yeah.
But it's always good to establish business relationships because you just never know what the future can bring, right? It could always change something. So for me, I always like to build relationships, whether it's going to be beneficial or not at that time, because I think that relationships are important just in general. So when I go into meet a builder, I want to find out, do you have your own title company? If not, what is it that you're looking for? How can we qualify to be a partner? What is it exactly that, you're looking for? And I want to say out of 9 out of 10 times, it's probably they have their own title company. Mm-hmm. But just to give you guys an in on this.
We're getting an in on it.
Yeah, my boyfriend is a builder. So.
Oh, see, that's how you get in, man.
Full disclosure, who does he work for?
Get in.
No,
that's how you do it. You meet them, and then you date them. That's what happens.
So that was the end, guys. No. So he is a VP for a builder. And so basically, I ask these questions, the questions that I hear in the field. I'm like, hey, so what's really going on here? Mm-hmm. And, some of the things that he mentioned was 85% of his buyers are from California. Mm-hmm. So, and why is it so high is because there's not enough material. That's just really it. There's not enough bodies to sustain the demand for the amount of homes, right? So there's not enough people.
Do you think the skilled labor is a problem? Because I'm going to say this. You're hiring people that were maybe on furlough or laid off, and some of these people never went back to work doing what they did, especially if you compare back when it was almost like an engine, right? It's like a strong engine that's just trucking along back into 1990s, late 90s, early 2000s. And then there was no pandemic. And then all of a sudden you get a pandemic and everybody's starting to change and think, well, do I really want to do this? Or if I'm on unemployment and I'm getting paid more on unemployment than I would get paid if I worked, maybe I'll just stay on unemployment. So now you're hiring people that maybe were not workers like that before, and they're trying to get their pace up, right? Or they're trying to get that down as far as the pace of the construction world. So you're seeing a squeeze on that, huh?
Right. So from what the conversations were is that not necessarily the builder, but the contractors. So what they do is they go out and they hire certain people that have the qualifications to build, but they don't pay them on that regular structure that they were before the pandemic. They give them a certain amount, and that's all you get for that day. Well, that doesn't really motivate a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But if that's all you can get, then you're probably going to do that. So there's not a sense of urgency when you're not being paid what you're worth, but you need to make the money. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So that doesn't create a sense of urgency for them. They're like, they could care less if the windows are completed and there's not a garage door finished. Because they don't have the incentives. They're not receiving those like we are, right? Like not everybody was, unfortunately, that was not something that we're going through right now, but they are. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like, I don't know if that's the right word. I want to say they're being taken advantage, but.
Yeah, it's like this. You're going to work and you feel like you're overworked maybe, or maybe some of the things going on with the houses. I know that they're having a hard time completing them. We constantly look and get updates from builders, and a lot of times they're like, we're still waiting on the plumbing, it still has an issue, or the flooring's not in and we're way behind our deadline. Some of the materials aren't there. So when you look at this, you're dealing with a lot of this too, right, Joey? Where people are trying to get into their house on time, but yet the materials aren't there. You're just talking about it, you don't have the labor that's there, and all the materials that were supposed to be there, they're really high as far as the cost to get them. Exactly. And so what is some of these clients dealing with? Like, what are they doing?
So it's funny that you mentioned that, because I just got notification today that we were finally going to be framing on a house that we're under contract in Summerlin.
Oh, wow.
With a new home, obviously. But we've been in contract for about 4 months. signed the contract, design center already done, everything's signed off on.
Yeah.
And it's been 4 months and they were just starting to frame the house now.
Yeah.
Because there's a shortage of skilled labor and lumber, right? And I just became aware that some of the home builders right now are having a really tough time getting the radiant barriers, which is insulation in the roof, which basically keeps out the thermal heat, right? And keeps your house cool, which is very, very important here in Las Vegas. So now what they're doing is they're trying to find an alternative for that because it's a nationwide shortage.
Yeah.
But they're either not giving it to the home buyer,
Sure.
or they're making, or they're trying to figure out an alternative. They haven't found out what the alternative is going to be yet, but in most cases, you have to sign off on an addendum acknowledging that you're not going to get that radiant barrier, which is an included feature in all the homes.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's crazy.
So they're just
Vegas is hot.
yeah. So they don't stop their schedule of their production, right? They just keep going on schedule, and if the material is not there, if it's something obviously like framing or trusses or something like that, obviously they have to stop. But if it's something that's an included feature like insulation, a type of insulation like that, they just breeze right past it and keep going to the schedule.
David, are you seeing some of the things out there, the same things Joey is? I mean, you got a lot of people right now that are looking to get into their homes, a lot of challenges, a lot of things happening where, I think there's a lot of frustration, a lot of frustrated buyers out there because they think they're going to get a premium, they're getting incentives like she was saying and all these things, but it's just seemed like it's not all flowing, the way it needs to flow. What are your thoughts on that?
Right, exactly, because right now the ball is in the seller's hand. So in this case, the seller is the builder. So the builder calls the shots. They're not offering incentives. They're even cutting commissions on realtors. So they're the ones calling the shots right now. Mm-hmm. But as far as the values go, they're up almost 10 or 20% higher than in 2006.
Is that
right?
Because
Because I bought a property in 2006 and it's worth about 20% more now than it was back then. So the values have.
So we are higher now than this market.
Than 2006, yeah.
Do you think that there's going to be a point where it's ever going to stop? Because obviously we had a big problem, right? We had a market collapse. And I think a lot of people are looking are we headed for another market collapse, right? Because these prices are so high. Mm-hmm. And we see these things happening where the demand is there's not enough homes. But again, we've just talked about it. It's harder to get a loan. It's harder to get these homes. It seems like systematically we're in a better place. There's no alarming data out there that shows anything. It almost is like steady Eddie, right? We talk about how prices are going to continue to go. But do you see anything out there, David, that says, hey, this might be one of those things that we're looking at where we could see what a recession or something happening? You were in this market in the mid-2000s, so and you saw and you witnessed all of these things happening. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the biggest factors here, the difference between 2006 is in today's market, we have about 30 or 40% of the buyers that are cash versus in 2006, 90% of the buyers were financing.
Yeah.
And almost 100% financing. No down payment. Banks were just lending money.
Yeah.
So it was a ton of debt out there, a ton of financing versus today's market where you have a ton of inventory, 40% of inventory that's bought with all cash. So there's no risk of being foreclosed on with a large amount of the inventory that's being bought in this market.
And you got to think too, when people are bidding, and I've had multiple offers out there from 10, 15, 20,000 above list. And the last offer that I was going to submit was a $50,000 above list price. And the listing agent told me, don't even bother. We have 2 cash offers, 100,000 over list price.
Wow.
$100,000? Yeah.
What kind of house is this?
Yeah.
I mean, it was only a 2-bedroom, 3-bath home or what?
Right. But but what happens there in that community is that's the comp.
Yeah.
So now when somebody tries to get financing and there's a model match or something similar within that mile radius or whatever 2-mile radius, they're going to use that closed sale as a comp. So what happens to the whole neighborhood? It goes up.
I got a question. Panic selling, panic buying. Is that happening right now? What are your thoughts? Esmeralda, do you think
I wish people were panic selling because I need more listings. If you're watching this, contact me.
I would say no.
You don't think they're panic selling right now or buying because they feel that they're getting left out?
No, because I think that the seller right now, I think they're pretty intelligent, and I think that that's why we're not getting the amount of homes for sale.
Yeah.
So I would say no and I would say maybe the panic is not finding a home through the buy, but I wouldn't say it's on both sides. I would say on one side.
Yeah, I mean, this pandemic has definitely created a different situation for buyers because I feel like maybe back in the mid 2000s, they felt like this was too good to be true, right? It's almost like you're getting into a loan, stated income.
I was just going to say that
Right?
stated income was
right?
like.
It's a big deal. And it's almost like, man, I can get this. Wait a second. I can get this 2,500 square foot home, and I'm making $30,000, $40,000 a year. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So compared to today, you really have to show all your numbers, right? You got to show all. We're going to the extent of, okay, you're a self-employed buyer. Now you got to prove that you have the ability to pay this money, right? You got to have a profit and loss set up. It's got to match your business bank statements.
Yeah.
I mean, and it goes to an auditor as far as in here. So it goes through the whole process of, we're not going to let this happen again. So is this going to continue to be a problem? I don't know. I mean, is this,
I don't think so. I think this is going to be very well played out for a very long time. I think we're going to be in this market for a while because a couple things are happening right now. You have to think, people are trying to relocate, right? They're trying to take advantage of the low interest rates.
Yeah.
They want to move. They're mobile, right? But now you have these sellers that can maximize their equity in their homes.
Sure.
But then when they sell, where are they going?
Well, that's the thing, right?
Right?
So,
So,
where
like,
do these
so-
people
That's what I
move
said
to?
about being smart.
Yeah. So now you're like $150,000 to equity. Hoorah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Everything's that much more expensive. So it's either a lateral move or you're going backwards. So in a lot of cases, it might not make sense for these sellers to actually, list their homes and sell.
David, what are your thoughts?
I think the biggest factor, piggybacking on that, is people that are relocating from out of state. So we're seeing people in California, for example, they'll sell their house for $800,000. They just made, let's say, for example, $400,000 equity. Now they can buy out here cash, $400,000. So they're selling in California, New York, where the values are double, triple, Miami, and they're using all that equity to sell out there, and then they're buying cash out here. So in those cases, they have plenty of equity
And money.
And money.
Afterwards. So you could buy
Yeah.
a home and still have
Cash.
money.
and still have left over.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Let me ask you. Can I ask you a question? I
What
just
do you think about it?
asked you and I answered at the same time.
First off, take another
Beep.
drink of your beer and then ask her the question.
Beep. No,
So
Now ask
Buzz.
her the question.
So you work for a title company, right? And
Yes.
this might be very good for the builders. I mean, for the viewers.
Yeah.
So when you execute a builder contract as a buyer, and it says that you have to use First American because that's their preferred title company, are they obligated to use that title company, or can they actually say, you know what, I would rather use your title company?
So I'll tell you this. I've had this question many times. So yes, you can counter the builder, but what happens is those incentives that come with that purchase of that home, they're gone. So,
Yeah. Well,
so-
in this market, typically they're not offering any incentives,
Yeah.
right? They may be offering to pay the transfer tax
yeah.
or something like that,
Well,
but
they
the title
have
companies really don't offer anything.
Well, what happens is either in the contract, there's somewhere in fine print, it might say something like, if you end up moving to a different title company, they're not going to pay for whatever that difference is of title and escrow. And sometimes for the buyer might not be worth it. But there's usually is an incentive tied, whether it's, I've had it where they're like, well, we're getting the free stove and the
Yeah.
refrigerator. And, well, I can't give you a free stove and a refrigerator.
Were the incentives
But
the same as back in the mid 2000s? I mean, you guys were in this market.
I would say yes.
They're the
right?
same exact,
I think
or is
that
it
there's
less?
a lot of different.
I'll go back to 2016. So I worked for a home builder in Summerlin. I managed one of their communities. And to jumpstart the community, I'm telling you, this is only back in 2016, we were offering a $50,000 design center credit.
Well, that's huge.
$50,000
That's crazy,
design
man.
center credit. And I mean, on average, maybe it was like 5 or 10, maybe $50,000. That was just a short time ago.
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah.
50,000.
So what do you think about this, Esmeralda, as far as, do you think that these incentives are going to get better, or is it going to is it going to stay the same where it's terrible incentives? Because I feel like it's terrible incentives. And then they're saying, well, what's free? What's free? Well, you got to realize the builders aren't making much money.
They're
right?
not.
They're not. And so when they got prices of materials going up, and then they're trying to make money themselves, a lot of times people don't know it. You're probably overpaying for some of this stuff, right? Because they're getting it pennies on the dollar. Or we'll say, it's really cheap. Is the incentives really enough to sway somebody to, use a lender, outside lender, or somebody else? Because that's the only reason why they give those incentives is to use their inside lender, right, Joey?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and across the board, I think there's only a couple maybe a handful of builders that are actually offering incentives like transfer tax,
Yeah.
right? Or like a flat like $3,000 towards your closing costs. But
Right.
as we all know, nothing's for free, right? So they have to make it up somewhere, whether it's an interest rate or maybe an origination fee or something, right? So, I mean, I don't think they're going to get any better because I think the home builders right now are trying to squeeze every little penny
Every
they
dollar,
can out of
man.
out of this market.
Everything.
You know, so they're
Nobody's
not begging
doing
for business. And then people are
Yeah.
knocking on their doors. Like I said before, they have a huge interest list on most of these communities. So there's really no reason for them to have to offer any incentive to use their
Right,
Yeah.
to leverage their
sales.
Yeah. I mean, you got to look at it too. I mean, they're in it to make money just like any business. Regardless, let's step aside and say it's not even financing or real estate. You know, if you're a business out there, why would you give something for free if you're not going to make it up somewhere else?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to look at it like that. But if you go back, you know, we talk about new homes. Let's talk about existing homes. Okay. Now, you guys have gotten some properties in contract recently. David, you as well. You've had some issues where you have multiple offers going on. What are some of the things you're seeing in mid 2000s? Because I want to compare that market, because you were here, versus today's market.
Very similar as far as the bidding wars and things like that. It's very similar to 2006. So what we're seeing is people that have to pay above the appraised value, and they have to write that in the contract. So if they're over bidding on a property, let's say 10,000 above list price, they're also going to have to include in the contract that they're willing to pay above the appraised value.
Yeah.
Because bidding over the list price doesn't mean anything if it doesn't appraise.
Right.
Because then you're stuck at the appraisal and renegotiating the contract anyway.
Are you seeing the same things with that, Joey?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a very good point because a lot of people just come out and say, yeah, if it's priced at 400, we'll pay 450. But if you don't write that in the contract, it's good as nothing, right? You have to say, I'm going to pay at a minimum of this and a maximum of this. So you have to really outline your details.
What is sellers of homes thinking right now? Do they think like they can just get whatever they want? You know, we've had a couple of offers. We're going to talk about appraisals. Okay. So it's important to write a clean contract, but seller goes out there and they're like, you know what? I'm going to get what I want for this property. You know, we're going to offer, like, where do they come up with the concept of, because people don't know how they get these comps. Mm-hmm. They don't understand how a realtor goes out and comps the property as a selling agent and says, well, I think, again, the seller can sell it for whatever they want, but you got to say, well, is it going to appraise, right? Is it going to appraise? And so you have to say, well, in this market, this is what in the surrounding areas, this is what your home is sold for. Mm-hmm. But it seems like that's just thrown out the window.
It is.
And it's like, well, you know what? I know it's not going to appraise, but I know somebody's going to give me that 20 or 30,000 above. Go ahead and put that. So is that what's happening with these sellers?
I'm in that situation right now. I took a listing over the weekend, had a bunch of showings. I got one offer. Yeah. Right. It came in $25,000 below list price.
List price.
And my seller countered. He just came down 5,000 basically. So 20,000 above, and we would still be about 15,000 above the last sale price when you do all the comps and stuff. And he's just basically like, well, you know what? We'll see. Yeah, somebody will pay it. Right. So he doesn't want to come down, and we're at the value on that offer, and he doesn't want to come down. So,
David, you seeing the same things?
Absolutely. Yeah. The buyers, they just have to come in real strong in this market. So a lot of the buyers, the sellers, they're seeing buyers that are coming in with 30, 40% down in some cases.
Wow.
So they're going to choose those buyers over somebody that's FHA, 3.5% down, because they know in a worst case scenario that they have to pay the difference. That buyer has the reserves, and they're able to pay the difference when they renegotiate during the appraisal.
I don't see the difference, though. Like if you get a VA buyer, a VA buyer that's buying for using his military, they're not much different than a conventional buyer. Mm-hmm. And then in the contracts, a lot of times, or when you're putting the offer in, and you look up and say, okay, we're going to go ahead and make this offer, and the seller's like, oh, I'm not going to take a VA or FHA buyer. Who's to say they're any different than the conventional buyer? I mean,
I think VA buyers are easy.
They're way easy. So are you dealing with that a lot, where you have a lot of people that are trying to write offers that are FHA or VA buyers, but you're like, well, you can't do it. I'm sorry. You're out of luck.
Yeah. I haven't had that pushback.
Not really, huh?
No.
I feel like a lot of people are trying to, structure it that way where they're not inviting people that are government.
FHA, probably a little bit more pushback, but VA, I've never had any pushback.
How about you, David?
No, pretty similar. FHA a little bit. VA has always been a lot easier.
Yeah. Esmeralda, I got to ask you a question.
Yes.
So when you're out there and you're talking with a lot of these realtors, right? do a lot of these realtors look like they're suffering a little bit in this market? Like, I know we talked about it a little bit, but are they struggling where they're considering maybe just jumping out of this for a bit? You know, where it's like, hey, you know what? Have you talked to people where this is just too hard of a market to make a living?
I hear two stories. Either A, they're killing it and they're super busy, or yes, they're struggling. So it's one or the other. There's no middle for what I've seen, like conversations. And yeah, some are like, hey, I might have to do something else until this corrects itself. Yeah, if it does. I mean, we don't know, right?
Right. I mean, we have some people on the team that are running 2 jobs, right? They have to. I mean, look, you got to make money. But if you're not established in this market, it's a tough market to cut your teeth. You know, you're not going to just go out there and say, okay, well, I'm going to start writing offers. These people have been entrenched in this business for a long period of time, the ones that usually sustain where they're at. You guys have been doing this. How long have you been doing this, Joey? How long?
Since 05.
Okay. How about you, David?
Since 05, 16 years.
Yeah. I mean, think about that.
Time.
That's a long time, right? And it's like, good thing that you guys are in this market at this time. How long you been a title rep over there?
20 years. Well, with WF?
Yeah.
2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
Wow. See? And so you look at all these things that's going on. You look at the challenges. So let's talk about the appraisal situation. Are you guys getting a lot of kickback as far as like people that are getting these appraisals and they come in? Are they willing to budge, these sellers? Are they willing to say like, hey, you know what? I'm going to come down in price. You know, we've had a couple that's come in way low, way low.
What was the biggest one? What was the biggest one we had? Was it
I don't know.
230? No, yeah, it was 300.
I had one at like 40 below. Yeah, I had one at 200 below. And I was
wow.
we had the one in Seven Hills.
Yeah,
right. It was
200 below.
Yeah, it was like
it's crazy.
200.
So yeah, I mean, and so David, you've had some issues
closed.
too, right?
It's still closed.
It closed, but you know what? You got to have people that are willing to play ball, right? And if you don't have people willing to play ball, but they have to understand. Come on, like it can't be 200,000 off, and somebody's like, wait, maybe that's a little bit too high. I mean, I've seen some come in 40, 50,000 high. Now, again, it's based upon one's opinion, an appraiser, right?
Right.
But still, we got to take that in consideration because, the sellers want all they can get. It's a grab. It's a money grab right now. So do they meet halfway? David, are you seeing people meet halfway for you?
Yeah, we are actually. We just talked about this morning. We have a buyer in contract. The appraisal came in 33,000 below what we had in contract.
Oh, wow.
So what we're doing right now is negotiating with the seller, and the sellers know that we offered 15,000 above list price, and they were already about 10 or 15,000 listed higher than the comps.
Yeah.
They already knew that. So they already came down about 15,000, which is a little bit less than half.
Sure.
So now we're in the middle of negotiating, and most of the time what we're seeing is everybody meeting in the middle. The buyer will pay the difference halfway, and the seller will reduce the price by half. And that's most of the time what we're seeing with these.
Do you think this is going to be continuing to be a problem here, where you're going to start to see appraisers are just not going to bend any further? They're going to say, you know what, I'm going to draw a line in the sand and say, I can't just keep appeasing or going that high, because they got to have supportive data, right? Yeah. I mean, it can't just be, I'm just going to throw it out there and be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to come in. Some of these appraisers, I'm not trying to knock appraisers, but like when they do refinances, right? It's like they come in, they take pictures, like if they're doing a refinance, like 2 pictures and I'm out.
Yeah.
But again, it's like you got to look at the fact that they're only going to expose themselves so much. I think they're going to continue to potentially have a problem with the values, especially with these people writing contracts so high. What do you think, Joey?
I mean, I think only time's going to tell, right? So as more of these homes start closing, they're going to see the values, right? And we're closing a lot of homes. I think what did we close, like 1,500, almost 2,000 homes, something like that. No, like 1,000 homes last month. So as you start closing all of these homes, the values are going to continue to rise in these neighborhoods, and they're not going to have a problem with the values.
And one of the crazy things you were talking about too with the cash buyers, the people that are paying cash, they pay 40,000 above the comps in the area, and now that's a new comp.
Yeah.
So now the appraiser can use that sale that was purchased with cash, no financing, and that's now the value of the subdivision. So the values can go up with a cash buyer by a huge margin.
Yeah. Within a day.
Yeah.
I think that, you look at what's going on with the economy, and Vegas is desirable. And we've seen that, Esmeralda, you were back, mid 2000s. Vegas was desirable back then too. And I think it's because there's a lot of growth. Exactly. Are you seeing the same growth though that you saw back in the mid 2000s versus today? Because I think it's attractive to people. Or is it more of people are just selling their house and they're just getting the heck out of Dodge because the taxes in California are so high? You got a lot of people that are wanting a better living environment. They can buy a bigger home. Like, what do you think about that compared mid-2000s to today, the desirability of Las Vegas?
I think the desire is bigger, I think, this time around. And one is
bigger.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's bigger because one, taxes. That's a huge thing. I mean, in California, it's huge. If you can save that and move and get a bigger house, and save that money. I mean, I've heard jokes, like, I'm not going to say who, but I mean, a couple
You got
people,
some jokes over there? Let's hear some jokes.
A couple millionaires out there, they're like, yeah, give me my free home. And they're like, I just saved, 1.2 million. So basically by moving, I save 1.2 million. Now I have a free home in Vegas.
I feel that there's a lot of people out there in competition right now, and they're fighting for these houses.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're in it like, what is this person doing? Let's just go above. Joey, do you think it's going to go above? David, do you think we're going to go higher than this? And I think a lot of people are willing to kind of duke it out, right? I mean, they're willing to whatever it takes at all costs. So you've seen that as well with these buyers. They're really competing against each other.
Yeah. I mean, there's a real sense of urgency, to try to get a property. And what's wild is if you look back from last year at this time to now, our luxury market just really started developing. I mean, we've always had like a micro, luxury market,
smaller.
but now it's really starting to develop, and you're seeing all these people coming in from California, and I call them tax refugees.
We know it, man. We know it.
And they're looking for this safe haven, so they're taking this money, and they're investing here. So now, when we used to say, "Oh my God, I have a cash buyer." $1 million. He's looking at 1 million, 1.2.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone gets excited. Now you're like, shoot, I got this buyer for $1 million, $1.2 million. I got nothing to put him in.
Isn't that
I can't
crazy?
show him anything. Like that whole market's just been squeezed.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like a weird price point from like 700 to like 1.2, very limited to inventory. Right now you have to go from like 1.5 to like 2.5 or 2.2, and now you have like really nice luxury properties.
Yeah.
Right. So even like, houses that were built in the 90s, 95, 96, 97 that are like, a lot of square footage, they're all going price per square foot. They might have a pool, but you're 700,000-800,000. Right. People are looking at that price point. They're like, I want that. I want something nicer. I want something newer, modern, contemporary.
Yeah.
Right. So now you got to jump. You got to leapfrog that 800,000 to 1.2 and go above. It's wild. And it happened just like that.
Yeah.
It happened so fast.
You seeing the same thing, David, with people moving here? I mean, is the desirability still here? You got a lot of people coming because Vegas has a lot to offer. I think it had a lot more. We still got a lot of jobs. We're doing job fairs. We're doing all kinds of things. But it just seems like there's a lot more to offer, or there was, because Vegas was up and coming. I feel like we're an established city. Now we have sports teams, and we have a lot of things that's got a lot of momentum. But is it the same market? Do you see the same desirability for people to move here? Or is it because of taxes and because they just want to buy a bigger home and they maybe want to store a nest egg by selling their house in these other areas?
I think that's definitely the number one factor is the tax refugees. I think we just saw that.
Ding. No.
Right?
That's huge, especially for California, New York, people coming from New York as well, a lot of people from the East Coast. And they just want to save on taxes all across the board, state taxes, property taxes. They're going to get a huge discount coming here. And like you said, use some of that money and just get a free house for it. So that's huge.
Absolutely. And then going like for the desirability aspect of it, I mean, think about it. You have Circa that just opened up. You have World Resorts opening up.
That's crazy.
You have so many cool things. You have the Raiders going to have opening season. You have the Golden Knights. You have MLB. You have MLB. That's like on like whispering, like in Henderson.
Crazy.
I mean, there's so many cool things that are happening in such a short period of time.
Absolutely.
In Las Vegas, that's driving jobs, driving desirability. I mean, people, when they heard the Raiders were coming, it was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Now we're a city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So unique as well, because like in the Raiders Stadium, you can place a bet, legalize gambling in Las Vegas, place a bet, and now there's a nightclub going up in the stadium, the Wynn nightclub. So you're going to be placing a bet, you have your ticket, and now you're at a nightclub watching the NFL game. Yeah. There's nowhere else where you could do that.
Exactly.
Esmeralda, have you gone out to some of these new casinos? Have you entered into some of these casinos like Circa? We also had the Red Rock that just recently changed. What is that? Virgin Hotel? Is that what it is?
Virgin. Hard Rock.
Resorts World. Yeah, Resorts World's coming out, and that's the Hilton, right? Isn't it? I think so.
Yep.
I haven't, you guys. I haven't.
No?
But I need to. I just haven't done it yet. But
yeah. Why? So my thing is that you don't go down to the Strip a lot, then I'm assuming.
No, it's not that I just really haven't, like, when I think about leaving, Vegas, it's like not even thinking about the Strip. I'm thinking of traveling somewhere else.
Oh, you're trying to get out of here.
Yeah, but no, I definitely want to actually explore them, make sure I check them out, see what's going on. But I'm excited, to be honest, you guys. I am. June 1st, it's on.
June 1st, all right. That's going to be your ticket out to go and start doing.
I'm going to start.
Doing your
you can
thing,
see
huh?
me on. No, just I want to be on. No, yeah, I'm definitely excited about it. I think it's time that we start getting out there.
Do you see that Vegas is thriving back because of the pandemic? We talk about this where it did spark this whole new style of a boom, right, for a housing boom. Do you think that it's going to be the similar thing where a similar thing where when you go and you look at the Strip, is it going to be a boom down there too? Not just with the housing, but people are just going to be like, okay, it's on. She just said it, like
100%.
Yeah, it's like I have been stuck in my house, and now I got the freedom, and I think it's just going to really open up doors. It could
I
be.
think so too.
I think it's going to be like the Roaring '20s again, right?
Dude, I mean, right? If you look at the progression,
on steroids, like.
Yeah. If you look at the progression of this, it was like 25% capacity, then 35, then 45, then 55. All of a sudden, I mean, like places are full.
Yeah.
I mean, like you go in downtown Summerlin and some of these places. I'm not going to mention names, but I mean they're like 100% capacity, no masks anywhere in sight.
I don't think people wear masks now, man.
Yeah.
Do you see people wearing masks right now? I mean, when you go out, it seemed like they're starting to, because you talked about this.
Yes.
You went to Florida, right, Esmeralda?
I did.
And where else did you go? You went to another state?
No, I mean, I actually, let me take that back. So I was in Burbank last week, and I mean, people wear their masks, but not really.
That's what I'm saying.
I was really shocked because, California is really strict.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to ask you guys a question. When this happens, are you guys going to wear your mask, or are you just completely done with it? I'm just curious.
Hell no, I'm out.
You're out? You're done? How about you?
I'm done. I'm ready to kick it right now to
David,
the curb.
Same thing.
Yeah.
You're out, man?
Throw it out.
Yeah.
I think this is a Vegas thing, man. Yeah. I don't know. I might have one in my back pocket just in case. It's like I see somebody, they're, less than 6 feet. I might just pull it out. You know what I mean? Throw it on real quick. Let them know, like, hey, I'm packing,
Have one for the emergencies.
Oh, man. So, David, let's talk to you about what's happening with these contracts. All right. So you're writing these contracts. We know that they have to be clean. Okay. Are you having an issue where some of the, not an issue, but are you really paying attention to writing clean offers? Because when you look at making these offers on these existing homes, a lot of competition, but you always say, there's an old saying, garbage in, garbage out. You write a contract. If the contract comes in and it's like, hey, man, I don't know what this person's talking about. I don't know what they're asking for. I really don't understand it. It's sloppy. Is it more emphasis on trying to write a clean offer and a real good offer and understanding what it's going to take to get into that offer?
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes back down to kind of who you know in the industry, because sellers, they want to know that the deal's going to close, number one.
Absolutely.
So they want to know it's going to close. So the listing agent, they do their due diligence and find out who is the lender. Have we worked with them before? Who's the buyer's agent? Have we worked with them before? Because if they don't know what they're doing in this market, the deal's going to go 70% of the way and then cancel, and that's going to waste a lot of the seller's time.
Yeah.
So if they know who the lender is going in, they say, okay, let's go ahead and accept this offer because we have a solid contract. So writing the contract, you need to put all that in there.
Do sellers tell you, not tell you, but they kind of give you emphasis that, hey, we have so many offers. Take me in the mindset of you writing an offer for a client right now. How much information are you getting? Or is it very minimal, or is it like, you know what? Don't even talk to me if it's not 10 above, because that's our starting point. I mean, do they really give that type of information?
Going back to kind of who you know, it's really about have a good relationship with the listing agents and finding out what the status is. So when a buyer likes a property, you have to find out how many offers are on the property and kind of get a ballpark for what's the highest and best that they're going to accept. So that way, when you write the contract, you already know that you're going to be in the best position for your buyer without just getting rejected. So at least you have an opportunity to get a counter offer or get an acceptance.
Joey, what about you, man? You going through the same thing when it comes to writing these offers? Because I know a lot of people, they just are like, some sellers, some agents, they don't want to disclose any information. So it's probably kind of hard, especially when you have 20, 25 people that are writing for the same offer. How do you pry that information out of these people,
Just
or can you?
Digging. Just keep digging. Just
Start
calling
showing up,
and calling
stalking.
and calling. Yeah, I mean, being persistent. And it's kind of messed up. I mean, look, obviously you have responsibility to your client, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to get them the highest and best deal for their property, right? And if you have their permission, you can disclose what that highest number is. And for some reason, I don't know if it's a power trip or what it is, but a lot of listing agents don't like to disclose it, right? Sometimes you can negotiate it out of them, you know, and you kind of get hints. But like for me, like with my listing, I tell everybody who's coming in, like, look, this is where the number's at. Waive your contingencies. Be the most flexible.
That's the starting point. Just, hey, waive it.
Yeah.
If you don't waive
appraisal
it,
contingency,
we're not going to get this
or
going.
inspection contingency, depending on the condition of the property, right? Like, look, this is how you're going to get to the front, and give me your highest and best. If you can't beat like 360, don't waste your time.
Wow, they're telling you that much information.
No, I'm as a listing agent. That's what I'm telling. That's what I'm telling. That's what I'm telling the other buyers agents. Like, look, this is where you need to be, and if you can't, like, I don't care about the other buyers agents. I have a responsibility to my client to get the highest and best offer submitted, the most qualified. So if you can't meet this criteria, don't even waste your time.
I got something I want to talk about. So this is probably a sensitive information as far as people and real estate agents, but I want to bring this out just because I've always wondered. So you're making an offer and you see a realtor on the other side and you're like, oh, I've had problems with this person. And you're like, is this going to go good or is it going to go bad? Normally, when you see that go across and they're like, hey, what's going on, Joey? Or what's going on, David? Is it a good conversation typically, or is it like you just kind of avoid that altogether because you're like, you know what? We don't click, because it does take some synergy working with an agent that is knowledgeable. But if you get somebody that's just not, they're just not with it, or they're just, you know, they're very they're attacking as far as, you know, when you're asking questions. How often does that happen, man? Is it really hard? Like, and sometimes where you, because everybody, it's a small city.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it doesn't happen to me.
Okay.
It doesn't happen. But what's funny though, you can actually disclose that to your client and say, hey, look, you know what? I will entertain offers from everybody in Las Vegas except this one person. And you can literally put that into the listing agreement, and you can legally not accept their offers. And
really? You
not
could put somebody's name?
100%.
Really?
You could say, listen, I am not going to deal with this one person. We've never had a good relationship. I don't like the way he does business. I'm not going to entertain offers. And if the seller signs off on it, you don't have to entertain their offers.
David, has that happened with you, man, where you've done that? Have you put somebody's name out there in lights like that and said, don't even try it?
No, absolutely. I've never had to do that. But as long as it's disclosed in the contract, you can do that. But like going back to what he said, you just have to realize that you never want to burn bridges in this business. So I've known that ever since the beginning. Even if I had a nasty cancellation or something that was real bad with another agent, I always end the deal cordial with them and say, you know what, it's all business. This one didn't work out. Yeah. Let's do future business in the future with this. So that way, you're always going to end up coming back around. There's only so many of us in this industry, and you never wanted to burn any bridges with them.
Yeah.
See, I think it's important too, because I was going to say that, you know, when you look at this industry and you look at getting offers accepted, what people don't understand is a part of it is you have to be seasoned. People have to somewhat know you. I think they're going to look at it and go, you know what? I've seen Dan's name before, right? I'm going to entertain this. I'm going to call them and see how qualified these people are. They do that on the listing side. Yeah. You know, hey, have you looked at their credentials? Have you looked at their documents? Have you looked at their credit? Of course, you know. Same thing for you. It's like, you know, when you look at the big picture, I think it's hard because when you have people that are out there in this market and you're writing offers the way that you're writing these offers, you don't know what's going to be selected. But it's kind of hard because once you have your name out there like this, and you have a reputation or whatever it is, sometimes that actually puts your client's foot in the door a little bit more because they know you.
Absolutely.
And I don't think people understand that. Like, you've been doing this 16 years. You've been doing it 16 years. You write an offer, they might entertain that offer because I know Joey.
Yeah.
Joey will get that done. I know David will get that done. Does that happen a lot?
100%. You have to think this too. There's 20,000 real estate agents in Las Vegas.
And how many are actually working full time? I'm just curious.
They rank the top 5,000. So that's as far as they go.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, the average real estate agent will only do 1 to 2 home sales per year.
Gosh, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
So 10% run the market.
Yep.
To be specific.
10%.
On whatever that total is.
So how do you go? You actually go after real estate agents, right, Esmeralda? Mm-hmm. How do you go after these agents? I mean, do you pull a list and you say who's doing business? Obviously, because look, it's a small city. We're talking about how you're getting offers accepted in a tough market. This is comparison to 2000, mid 2000s, right? And so you're going after agents. You're grinding. You're doing the things that's necessary. So when you're talking to these realtors, how do you go after these realtors? I mean, is there a certain protocol that you go through?
Production is one, referrals is another, and relationships, right? I mean, sometimes just because somebody doesn't have the numbers on paper doesn't mean that they're not producing. They could be in a team. It could be a partnership. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why it's not showing up with production. So, you can't always just judge it based on that, because I've definitely seen that where there's agents that are producing a lot, but nothing's under their name. Yeah,
it's funny because I think a lot of people don't even know what title does. Mm-hmm. Explain what title does really quick if you can do it concisely.
We're just a neutral third party, title and escrow. So we're basically the people that handle all the funds and everything that happens with the transaction, making sure that all parties meet the criteria that's necessary for whatever their situation, whether the buyer, the seller, the agent, the lender.
Yeah, they got title insurance to see if there's any mechanics, liens, anything that goes on. Mm-hmm. In case something's wrong, there's a defect on title. Also, there's a way to record. So, but if you go back, we'll kind of end this show. I'm going to read a question up here, but I want to talk about this. Where do you think this market's headed, Esmeralda? Do you think this market's going to keep going slowly up? I think it's going to continue to go up because systematically, it's harder to get into a house. It's harder to get a loan, right? You have more competition. There's no data out there. I mean, I know we have inflation, but there's no data out there that we can see that anything is coming due where we potentially have a problem like we did in the mid-2000s. Do you see anything happening at this point where it's going to...
Not at the moment. I do believe that it will continue to increase. I don't think that there is no signs right now. I think people will continue to buy. I think we're still going to have a demand, and I think it will continue the way it is.
Joey, what about you, man? Sorry about that. Go ahead.
For my Bitcoin fans out there, to the moon. I think we're going to continue to rise. I think we're going to have the same growth as we did last year. I know, and David and I work together. I mean, we have so many buyers right now that are just waiting to get into a property. Like I mentioned before, 62 pre-approvals, and we still don't have properties for these people. I don't see it slowing down at all. I mean, the only thing that I can see is if like the powers that be just kind of, if they do a rate hike, and it prices people completely out of the market and there's a complete stall. That's the only thing that I can see. But other than that, I think
You don't think the market's going to ever slow down though, where we may have just such a slowness in getting these homes built and the amount of homes on the market? You said a good point earlier, is that where are these people going to go if they do sell their house? Where are they going to end up? So where do they go if they're going to sell their home? I mean, is
North Dakota?
Right? So rent. Yeah. Maybe rent a home.
Maybe rent, right? But I mean, is there a lot of rentals out there right now, Esmeralda? Have you seen?
No, it's also a shortage in renting, unfortunately. So there's not even enough rentals available.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part.
I just listed a courtesy listing for one of my clients in Seven Hills in a little condo, and it's 2-bedroom. Right, older building, for $1,850 a month.
Oh wow!
I mean, that's
not bad, man. I don't think
for 918 square feet.
Oh wow, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, but there, it's like I mean, the rents are going up.
So now like New York.
Yeah, now things are starting to catch up to rentals. I mean, it's I don't know, it's crazy. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next 12 months. But I don't see the buyer side slowing down at all.
Yeah, the buyer side's not going to slow down. I'm just worried about, is our economy going to be able to sustain people buying homes? It just seems what's driving the market is there's obviously not a lot of inventory. It's high demand, right, for homes, low inventory. And until something changes, like they always say, well, the pandemic and people are going to go back to work. Yeah, but where are they going to go after they go back to work? And are people willing to start putting their houses on the market? So we'll see.
I mean, what if we had all of the inventory to satisfy all the buyers that we had? So we would have maybe we wouldn't have that 14% increase of appreciation. Maybe we'd have like 7 or 8 or 9.
It would drop down to 5 or 7% increase.
But we would still have the high demand. We would still have a lot of buyers, but we would be able to put them into homes. We wouldn't have to be the bidding wars and things like that. But
there's got to be a healthy market. Is what I think. There's got to be a balance. Right, it can't be too high and it can't be too low. Kind of like what the Fed does with inflation. Mm-hmm. It's got to balance it where they see something happening, but we're just seeing one side of it, and we've been seeing one side of it for so long. Yeah. You start to question, well, what's going to trigger that? What's going to make it different than what it was prior to the mid 2000s? We know that bunch of foreclosures. We saw this market tank.
Yeah.
Investors out there buying homes in just tons of homes, right? Coming in 30, 40 homes. This is a different market. And I'm curious to see if there's a trigger point for regression, or is it going to continue to be this issue where people are going to want to come here? Are they going to just get discouraged at some point? You talked about it. We had 62 people approved, right? Or you do. You have people approved. The thing is, what if they can't find anything? Are they just going to say, well, I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to wait till next year? What do you think?
I think the biggest factor is going to be the moratorium. Once the moratorium lets up, that's going to be a factor of how much inventory is going to be let back on the market. Are we going to see, 30% increase in inventory, 10% increase? That's yet to be determined, but that's definitely going to be, I think, the number one factor. And I think what I've been hearing as far as the market goes, in 2008, when we had the bubble, we had a real estate market crash. From what I'm hearing in today's bubble, we're not going to have a real estate market crash because so many cash buyers and good financing. We're going to have a stock market crash because inflation on companies.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been hearing about the bubble.
And that's a great point, because a lot of people are starting to take, and that's what happens with inflation, right? They take their money out of the market and they put it into something tangible like real estate.
Yeah, because they want that return, even though it might not be a big return. Like stocks, you're gambling.
It's a safe haven.
Yeah, stocks, you're gambling. You're putting money. We've seen huge gains in stocks. So you guys think the stock market could be something that could trigger a regression? We're always in it for a correction, right? I mean, it can't just keep going up. Now,
we're at record highs. Tremendous
highs. And that's the crazy thing is, well, can we sustain that? Because at some point, you're going to have people where they're bought out of the market. We already see that with Las Vegans here. But at some point, is it going to get to a point where people are going to just say, you know what? I love Las Vegas. It's desirable, but I can't find a home. I can't find a place to rent. What do? Do you just stay put, or do you just say, I'm going to another state?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, think people are going to start going to other states that are more desirable? Because dude, Vegas is an entertainment city. It's the entertainment capital, in my opinion.
Well, you think about the people that have been living here, that are born and raised here, right? A lot of people are established, and now all of a sudden they've never experienced these prices. Maybe a short flash during the early 2000s, but now they're experiencing maybe something a little more secure.
Right.
And now they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So if they do decide to leave, or they do decide to sell, the only other option would be to either downsize or to move out of the state, or maybe move to the north, right?
Yeah,
to Reno or somewhere else in Nevada.
I would say Texas is booming right now.
Yeah.
Texas?
I've heard and seen and known people move to Texas. So Texas seems to be
Compare that market to here. Can you a little bit?
Just based on conversations of people I know that actually moved, they said that the market is booming. Housing is expensive in Texas, but there's jobs, opportunity, and the cost of living is less.
Yeah,
so it's affordable.
Yeah,
it's desirable to move.
And most corporations that were leaving California, they had either it was Arizona, Las Vegas, or Texas, and a lot of them were going to Texas.
A lot of them were going to Texas. Yeah. Is Texas the new place to go besides Vegas? You look at Arizona. Is that like, because it's got a lot of land out there, and the tax situation is similar to here, right? Cost of living is a little bit less than here. Is that right?
I think it's more. I think it's right on par. You get much larger homes out there for sure.
So would you be out of, like, we're going to be biased, right? We want people to come here. We work as real estate agents, financing, your title rep, but would they get a better deal going somewhere else? Because I'm not saying Vegas is not a good place to go. I'm just saying, if somebody's like out of luck or they just can't make it here, maybe it's just they're out of, they can't do it. Do people now go to places like that? Are they going to be forced to do that if something doesn't change here in Vegas? Because I'm curious. I'm just looking at the big picture. Is it going to continue to be a problem going in this year and next year? Rates are going to stay low from what I'm hearing, but what do you think?
As long as we keep creating jobs, there's always going to be a desirability to live here.
Yeah.
Right? It's either you want the dryness or you want the humidity.
No, it's a great place to live.
Right? Both are great. I have family that lives in Texas. I've been out there. My wife wants to move out there because that's where her family's from, or not from, but that's where her family's living. And I look around and I say, what the hell am I going to do here? Right? Start over? Absolutely not. I love Vegas. I love where I'm at.
It is true, man.
This place is very, very hard to leave. Very hard to leave. Once you get established here, and it's such a small city to where the opportunities are endless. Once you establish yourself here, the sky's the limit. It really, really is.
That's another unique factor too with Vegas is that we can open one resort and have thousands of jobs. Like the resorts world that's going to open.
Yes.
And that's thousands of jobs opening just with one company that's opening up.
Yeah.
And there's no other states that have so much opportunity in just one place, different opportunities.
Plus, it's got its foothold, right? As far as when something goes on big, usually it ends up here. We have everything at our fingertips, right? We have all these things that goes on that people don't even know about. Literally, we can go at a store. We have a store at every corner. Things are open late. Like you have, there's sports teams. There's not really, I hate to say this, but unless you want to go to the beach, there's nothing really we don't have that other states don't have.
Yeah.
And I think we even have more in some ways,
What about that? I was hearing a conversation about the Teslas where they're doing everything underground.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about where they have that tunnel where they're going to drive here? I've heard about
boring company.
the bullet train that's coming here
The
too.
bullet
Now
train.
Yeah.
Just that alone. Wow.
Yeah.
And look, they wouldn't be building that if they didn't feel that we're going to continue to grow here. If they didn't
Absolutely.
feel, if they didn't feel that there's going to be that activity of how many people are coming here every single month?
What did you say? 700,000?
700,000, the census report of new, the people that are coming here to Vegas.
So relocating from
Relocation.
another
When
state.
I moved here in 2013, we were under 2 million people.
Wow.
I think now we're probably approaching 3.
We're approaching 3.
Oh,
yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Well, we're going to wrap this show up, guys. I appreciate all you guys coming on. This has been a great show. I want to do one thing. I want to give a shout out to Joey right here. This is Joey, and this is his website. Is that right, Joey?
That's it.
That's your website. And so what we'll do is we're going to put this up. Also, I want to take a look at, we have over here David's website. Look at David over here. David's got a website. What's your website? Let's go back to Joey's website. Joey's got, what is this? luxlvhomes.com.
That's right.
Okay, so if do you have like some type of different homes on this website? What's going on with this thing?
Yeah,
man?
so this is really all of our Simply Vegas listings.
Yeah.
On here, so it's all geared towards luxury homes. Now we do sell obviously in other price ranges.
Okay.
But we're geared more towards the luxury side.
David, you got the floor, man.
Similar to his, but we are open to the entire market. So it's a searching platform. People go on there, look for properties, and it's open to the entire area. We also cater to Hispanics, speak Spanish
go.
as well. So we can help
need
out
everybody.
all the Hispanics and help them as well.
Si habla español.
Hablamos español.
Esmeralda, what's going on, girl? WFG title.
Yes.
Explain yourself. How does somebody find you?
If you need to close on a home, please call me. Refinance, I can help you with that as well. So, and even if you're part of a builder, we can make it work. 'Cause I can match any price, anything.
And she dates a builder, by the way.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah. And
How to get in is you date a builder.
Hey, I didn't know he was. Long story, but yeah. I didn't know at that time.
All right, guys, we appreciate you guys coming on. Going on this live stream with us. It's really cool. Actually, read this one question here, Joey.
I see
Can you
some
do
of the
that?
questions here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
read this. A couple of these questions with
There's a cool one right there.
Vegas Coin Vegas. That guy's cool, man. Read that question. It says, "I'm curious." Can you read that one, Joey?
I can't. I don't know. Go ahead and read
Since
out.
Las Vegas Raiders have the 17th pick in the NFL draft, the player selected will get paid a certain amount of money, I guess. So what VIP options would be available for that kind of buyer?
So this guy's a Raiders fan, man. You just went to the Raiders
I
stadium.
just did. Yeah, I did the
You
Raiders
went
tour.
You went the
stadium
full tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Explain how that was, man. Was it just it's like you said, like a nightclub in there, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, the bathroom is a nightclub.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is absolutely incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. All the lines, the lighting, everything in there is absolutely spectacular. It doesn't compare to any other stadium that I've ever been to, and I've been to quite a few. I would say this one, like all the other stadiums are more like blue collared,
Yeah.
right? This one's like glitz and glam.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's absolutely on a whole other level. It's
Similar to
absolutely
like
cool.
how the Golden Knights, the opening shows, all the stuff with the
Yeah.
Golden Knights,
Yeah.
it's unlike any other team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the vibe's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that
It's
tour, I
like-
mean, they give you through take you through the locker rooms, the owner's box,
Yeah.
right, down to the field.
Was it surreal?
Surreal.
It was
Yeah,
crazy,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely incredible.
This is on probably another level of like no other stadiums out there, football or anything,
Yeah.
is going to compare against this Raiders stadium.
Yeah.
What do you think? I
Nothing.
mean, because you've been to other stadiums,
Yeah,
right?
they had a massive surplus of cash to upgrade the stadium after they sold all of the PSLs, all of the season tickets.
Yeah.
they had a surplus of like $100 million
wow.
to update Wi-Fi, the media, everything. I mean, it's crazy. So it's over a $2 billion stadium.
Okay, maybe you guys can answer this
Gorgeous.
question. Let me see here. How about Reno? Are tax refugees going to there too? Do you guys know anything about that? Where people are traveling from these tax high states and traveling to Reno?
What I'm seeing is the opposite from the California people. So we're seeing LA and San Diego come to Vegas, and Northern California, San Francisco, those people are going to Reno, Lake Tahoe, Reno. So that's what we're seeing as far as Reno.
Yeah. What do you think, Joey?
Yeah, I mean, I
Same
think,
thing.
I agree.
You guys got any more questions up there? Anything else? Let's end this show, you guys. I appreciate everybody out there tuning in. I want to give a shout out to Cece, always on here. Also, Vegas Coin, always on here, and also running at altitude. You guys are awesome. You're amazing. I appreciate all the comments and all the information. Hopefully, you guys continue to stay streaming with us, and I'm going to hopefully keep putting out this good content. You guys come back at any time. Put the comments in the section below if you guys want to get a hold of any of these guys, ladies. We're going to have the information here, and we'll see you at the next stream. You guys have a good night. Thank you for watching an episode of the French Workbench podcast. If you want to tune into past episodes, please subscribe to my channel now. Also, if you want to look at our audio-only options, we do have iTunes and SoundCloud.